Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Vault 710. Tonight we invite you to the Wasteland and into the Greener Pastures audio series. Our story is set in the Fallout universe, positioning us in the frozen tundra, many years after the Great War. Be prepared to imagine a world far bigger than the lower 48. Now here's your vault suit and your Pip-Boy. Settle in and try to get warm, while we tell the tale of hot snow, strange creatures, and conspiracy. Also, why you should never bring a mini-nuke underground. Please, enjoy.
When the sun was just beginning to rise, the first vault dwellers were as well. Sometime in the night, their group's shelter had been encroached upon. When they opened the doors to the post office to greet the day, the dwellers were shocked to find a large group of people who stopped what they were doing to stare at them. The people all had darker skin, and their clothes were made from mutated animal pelts. They refused to speak, likely recognizing that the group wouldn't understand anything they said. Instead, they motioned for everyone to join them. The leader of the Native Americans spoke to his people, not in a language any of the dwellers could understand, except David, who sat there listening intently, with his eyes closed, breath fogging the air in front of him. When the leader was done speaking, an older woman with intricate beadwork on her clothing called over a young man who gave her a pack. She began rationing out what looked to be smoked meat. The group was wary at first, eyeing their new friends cautiously. No one reached for their guns, though. Most were just happy to not be fending for themselves, even if they were suspicious. David started saying a few phrases in different languages. Apparently one of these struck a chord with the older woman. She said something back to him. He responded slowly, enunciating each word, before he turned back to the group. I don't think we have much to worry about from these people. They're Inuit, Native Americans. The older woman there is a seer. You could also call her a shaman. Way before our European ancestors came to this continent, it was already inhabited by her people. I'm not going to go into the specifics on how all that turned out. Let's just say we weren't the nicest of house guests. Even now, that's probably true. These people, they've been here for ages. I don't know how many of you paid attention in school. They settled the great north of Alaska far before us. Their people stretch from here through Canada, and some of the books we had say their people reached all the way to Greenland. I don't have much more information than that. What other things I do know are mostly a mix of old holotapes and books from before the war. I think me and Renee were the only people who made use of the language library. We used it to learn phrases in Inuktitut so we could have a secret language. Who knew it would actually be useful one day?
With David in charge, they followed the Inuit chieftain to a small village. Unlike the vault dwellers, these people had a far better grasp of the world. They walked with snowshoes like naturals. The fur around the lining of their hoods trapped the snow and blocked the wind. Dog sleds were loaded with all of the equipment after camp was torn down. Those who were sick or injured were given places on other sleds to rest while the groups pulled them. Rebecca couldn't help but notice how much slower the Inuit people seemed to accumulate radiation. She made a mental note to have David ask them their secret. She didn't want to tell anybody, but their Radaway and Radax levels were slowly running out. The walk wasn't too far to the Inuit village, a clearing encircled by tall cedars. They noted amongst themselves that they never would have been able to find this place on their own. The homes were made of blocks of ice. White smoke came from the chimneys. The only true signs of civilization that could be seen from a distance were the sparse amounts of people walking around. Each was wearing a leathery hide of some exceedingly fluffy creature. A few looked like they wore the skins of marine life. Marie wanted to stop and look in detail at the handiwork. She was ushered into one of the larger structures, where they were told to sit on soft furs and rest while the chief gave a speech to the village introducing the new visitors. David stayed with the main group and translated everything he understood. He told the group that their new friends were going to prepare a special party tonight as welcome. Something about making friends, feasting, and telling stories. A large fire was erected near the middle of the village in a well-worn pit. 2 teams of vault dwellers joined the Inuit to hunt. They returned nearer to nightfall with multiple goats. Both groups shared stories of the creatures they saw: yaogwai, wolves, colossus, sheep, squirrels, foxes. It was almost too obvious that there were things living in the snow that they refused to talk about, especially when the vault dwellers tried to describe the footprints they found outside their shelter during their very first night on the outside. The natives didn't use guns. They instead chose silent weapons like crossbows to avoid alerting more dangerous predators. That's what Andrus proposed while he was slowly chewing some smoked meat. Luke's Expedition Journal. We finally met some people. They're organized and healthy. David says they're going to teach us everything they can about surviving out here. You would like them. There's a girl that reminded me of you a bit. Her name is Amka. They're far better at cooking than we are, probably because they have fresh food instead of flash-frozen, dehydrated junk. The fish look a bit weird. Nothing like what we saw in books growing up. They don't have 2 heads or 3 eyes like Mr. Sampson used to think. Their tails were iridescent, like an oil-covered rock. Their fins were shaped different too. They seemed more dexterous, as if they weren't just meant for water. Whatever they used to be before they mutated doesn't matter. They're still delicious. I doubt you'd eat them, sis. You'd refuse to eat your cram if it wasn't fried up crispy enough. The next time you see me, I'm going to be dressed in full leather, full of fish, and stronger than anyone else in the vault. I hope we go back one day. Then you can meet our new friends.
The vault dwellers learned quite a few simple yet important skills from the Inuit: skinning, butchering, and tanning, among other things. The days went on peacefully for a while. They were almost able to forget all the horrifying things that had happened since they left the vault, although they would never truly forget. Most were hoping the natives would have alcohol to share with them, both to forget the cold and the past. David explained that many of the Native Americans that survived the Great War lived in cities the same as our ancestors, but when society and the bombs began to fall, they felt that this was a drastic sign that they had diverged too far from their ancestors' ways, and had decided that it would be better if they went back to how things were before colonization and all of its innovations. One of those innovations was alcohol, something they believed was a poison that allowed spirits to enter the body and make a person act in evil ways. The only exception to this rule was for use as medicine. It could be used to disinfect wounds and potentially help the suffering of the injured. They explained that this was also the main reason they refused to use guns or the pre-war technology that was in the towns they frequented. Unless it was necessary for their survival, they avoided it. Their main reason for frequenting this region was for access to the water purification plant. They did not use Radex or Radaway. Instead, they had found a way to cultivate glowing mushrooms, which they then processed with their medicinal alcohol. The mixture was heated until the mushrooms dissolved into a goo. They would then give this to anyone that showed the hot snow sickness. Next to the fire, red and green flickering everywhere, different meats were grilled, their scents filling the air mingling with the fire smoke. Silence fell among the native tribespeople as the older woman from before began to rise. She circled the fire, catching everyone's attention. She stopped in front of David, motioning for him to stand as well, speaking briefly before she continued. As she began to address the crowd, David walked the circle behind her, translating everything word for word.
Back in the old times, long before the Great War, the Inuit people lived near the coast. They were master kayak builders, and regularly brought in seals and whales to feed their people in their village. They were not the only people living there, though. They lived under a shadow of fear, with a tribe of much bigger and aggressive people. Their way of living was different than the Inuit, as they could not build kayaks, tan hides, or preserve food in the traditional ways of the North. These people possessed not only a larger stature, but extraordinary strength. They would build houses out of stone and boulders that were far too large for any Inuit to lift. These creatures, although human-like, are not human at all, with long arms and legs. Although they are bipedal in nature, despite their physical advantages over a regular man, the Tornit have exceedingly poor intelligence. The Inuit people would often build kayaks for hunting. while the Tornit were unable to master the building of kayaks. They were very aware of the advantages of having and using one. Occasionally they would trade the pelt and meat of their hunts in exchange for boats. From a distance they would look like a bear due to their stature and tendency to wear the colossus hides. If you get close to them, they smell like rotting fish, and under the fur, green skin. One story goes that one of the dumber Tornits borrowed an Inuit kayak without permission and damaged the bottom. The young Inuit became enraged and struck the sleeping Tornit in the chest, killing him. The remaining Tornits, fearing they too would be killed by the Inuit, fled the land and were rarely seen after. Since then, numerous cases have been reported of people going missing, dying, and being eaten, or just never seen again. Apparently the Inuit and Tornit no longer live in peace, even though they don't share a common hunting ground. Our people still build boats and travel the waters. The ocean has changed over time. Creatures of the depth have new body parts, or they act alive even though they look dead already. One such water animal is the whale. We used to live off its meat and fat. Now the ones we come across are decayed but still swimming. Your people saw the bullworm when passing the bridge. They have grown bold in recent years, coming to the surface more often, even dying on land searching for food.
The vault dwellers then shared their own stories and their origins with the Inuit, translating through David. It took a while, and they ended up acting out more of the story than they could explain. They showed them the Vault-Tec bobblehead and pointed to their clothes covered in the trademark gold and blue. They drew the vault door on the side of a building using charcoal, demonstrating how it opened and how they had left the vault. They told the stories of their dead friends, their struggles with the hot snow, and their hope of reaching Greenland.
The final story the seer shared for the evening brought most of the dwellers' nightmares when they finally settled down to sleep. The story of the Amakuk, a creature with great hatred towards man. It used to live in the water and hunt kayakers. The creature is often described by survivors as being extremely long and almost human-like in shape. It is covered in a thick, slimy, dark skin that has the appearance of old leather and long, wide-set, spindly arms with fingers that taper off into points. Recently it's been seen on land pulling a sled in a straight line, looking more human. This creature is even known to hunt its prey by burrowing through the earth and ice. It makes a great thumping noise as it digs. Do not stop if you hear this noise. Keep running. If you stop, the beast has already caught you. While in its human form, it must pull a sled and can only walk in a straight line. If a human were to see an approaching Amakuk in this form, they can sit directly in its path. Since it must only walk in a straight line, it won't be able to avoid the sitting person, and it begins to panic. While in this panic state, the Amakuk offers gifts in order to get the sitter to move. But the sitter won't accept it. The refusal of the offering causes the Amakuk to become more desperate. It will then offer a better gift, each time the sitter refuses, until the final and most valuable gift is offered. On acceptance of this offer, the sitter will move and be extremely wealthy, and the Amakuk will continue on its way. Within that moment, when she finished speaking her last sentence, her eyes went white. She began speaking with two voices.
Ghosts of the old world will invade your home. They fight with the demon over the souls of the dwellers. Wainwright will save your people, but the vault will be no more. Seek them where everything began, and you'll be too late.
Daniel, half as a joke, turned to face Luke. That would explain all the creepy shit I heard late at night in the vault. What do you think the last bit was about the old world? Luke side-eyed Daniel without responding.
One of the native women responded with surprisingly exceptional English. She's a seer. Sometimes she sees things that haven't come to pass yet. Don't bother trying to figure it out. You'll give yourselves a headache. It's best to just wait and see what it means. Everyone slept together inside of the large log structure towards the center of the village. Their heat radiating made the place feel much warmer than anything the vault dwellers had experienced above or below ground. Children tried to stay up late, looking through the equipment and the few books the vault dwellers had brought with them. They enjoyed the colorful blue and yellow jumpsuits, even though some of the older tribespeople seemed to shy away from them slightly. As they were falling asleep, Marie asked David, "So, if the snow is radioactive, how do they avoid radiation sickness inside their snow domes?" David turned a bit more towards Marie in his bedroll. "Well, they put Percival in one to rest after their medicine man tended to his wolf bite. I went to check on him and bring him some food earlier. All around the inside of the dome was fur, on the floor too. It was really thick. My Geiger counter didn't go off once while I was inside. Whatever animal it came from has probably developed a hide capable of deionizing radiation, or simply trapping it." Marie shifted to stare at the roof, watching the smoke billow up. "I wonder what kind of animal that is."
Vault Tech Mail. From Archer Gold to Serena Babbitt. Subject: Don't come down here unless you have to. Something about that cave creeps the hell out of me. Sure, it's pretty and everything, and I know I promised I was going to bring in a nice gem to put on that engagement ring I gave you a few years back. But something's not right about that place. It feels like I'm being watched, even when I just step a few feet inside. It's too quiet. I can't hear the rest of the vault from in there. I'm sure it'll make for a quiet living quarters. Maybe we can move in there when it's done. I don't want to be the one working in there, though. The giant pool in the center seems calm, and the science team says that there's good reason that it's warmer in there than it is in the vault. I don't buy it, though. I think there's something big living down there. It hasn't moved for now, but when it gets hungry, we'll be the first ones on the menu. I know you're going to say I'm anxious, and there's no reason for a vault dweller to be afraid of the dark. It's not the dark that scares me. It's the things in the dark that I can't see. Martin Smith's log, May 14th, 2296. 2 people fell from the scaffolding while examining mineral deposits. The fall was about 20 feet straight down. No one here knows how to swim. Who needs to learn when everything is frozen? No one could save them. Even if they could, it wouldn't have mattered anyways. The large smack they made when they struck the water reverberated off the walls, making it seem like it was louder than it was. Still, they didn't make a sound after they struck the water. It's safe to say that they either drowned or died on impact. I'm hoping for the latter for their sake. The screams they made as they fell were a drone compared to the laughter of the voice as it watched them careen to their doom. It watched through my eyes as they disappeared. Then the only sound was the lapping of the water on the shore once more. None of us wanted to move. I think we all heard it. Or maybe they're also realizing that if they fell, there would be nothing they could do to prevent their demise. The excitement of digging up priceless materials shriveled when met with the idea of death face to face. They can't force me to go back out there. I doubt I'm the only one who's going to bring this up. I need to calm down before I bring it up to the overseer. He won't listen to me if he thinks I'm panicked. I need to present my argument in a clear, concise manner. If I can't present my argument properly, then more could be sent to their deaths.
Vault Tech Mail. From Overseer Brooks to Troy Feldspar. Subject: Did you do it right? People are being more paranoid than normal. Not everybody was stable before we started drugging the water, but this is getting out of hand. I can't have people working heavy machinery and dealing with complex math on the fly if they're worried about every shadow and vaguely intrusive thought. This is your job, Troy. I'm sure your wife would already be running experiments and holding therapy sessions to try and figure out what's wrong. I know you have a lot of things going on right now, between injuries and the autopsy of the body that finally washed ashore. If you help me get this sorted now, that will mean less accidents in the future. You want that as much as me, right? Overseer's Log, May 15th, 2296. We can't keep losing more people. It's an impossible choice. Losing people to find resources, to save the people. I've dispatched a group of vault security to sweep the shore. If they can find the remains of the other body, we might be able to find out what we're dealing with. The Vault Tech scaffolds are rickety. One of them could have failed structurally and collapsed, but two? Vault Tech wasn't very serious about safety when they made these. Is there anyone in this vault that's truly confident? It's hard to tell exactly what Vault Tech was thinking when they allowed the descendants of such dumb people to survive the bombs. They seem to have no regard for safety or results. Were we doomed from the start? It's hard to think clearly still. Most of that is just sleep deprivation. There's a voice that still taunts the edges of my mind, though. Sometimes I catch words, but most of the time, it's just beyond my perception. Late last night, when I was looking out of my window, I was watching the night crew switch out with the day. They seemed to be accepting of the changes to my regime. After the traitors left us, it was as if all the dissenters left too. I expected more of a fight. Maybe there is more of a fight still ahead. Maybe they're hiding their hate for me, and that's fine. They'll see that it was all worth it in the end when we're all warmer and happier. As I was staring out the window, the voice got stronger.
I know what you seek. I know why you're digging. I can help you with what you seek. Keep digging. Make them work harder. They will love you and adore you. They'll see the work you've done to keep them alive. It will all be worth it.
Old Theo's cremation log. May the 17th, 2296. No one came to the funerals. Most were working. I was left to incinerate the remains by myself. It's always bittersweet. There's a few moments when the box is open where the ice starts to melt and puddles form around my feet. Troy was stalling it as much as he could. When he finally released the body, he wouldn't look me in the eye. He's hiding something. I used to be like an uncle to him as he was growing up. I could trust him with anything back then. He was the first one I shared my bootleg alcohol with. That was back before he had a family, though. Things haven't changed that much in 30 years. Rebecca's departure must be taking a toll on him. There were claw marks on the body. Vault suits are supposed to be skin tight. Before I closed the door, I saw gashes below the collarbone. I'm not smart enough to know if they happened before or after he died. I'm glad they're not sending me into the caves. I'm getting up there in years. Whenever I go near the entrance, my old scars start to hurt. Overseer's log, May 17th, 2296. I wasn't sure what to expect when it started to speak to me so coherently. I was caught unaware. I'm not sure when it began whispering directly into my ear. I could almost feel its breath on my neck.
If you listen to me, I will show you the way to the oil. The blood from the machine that keeps your people on life support. You don't want to go to the surface again, do you? You know what it's like out there. The ones who left are dead. You know this. You don't want to join them, do you?
I felt I had no choice, and I agreed to do what it asked. It told me it demanded 2 more people to be removed from the population. The strongest and the smartest. Rolf and Diego.
Once you do this for me, I will show you the direction you must take. Do this tonight.
I don't know what to do anymore. How did I get to this point? I agreed, but I don't know if I can follow through. These are good people I've treated like cattle and beasts of burden. They don't deserve that, even though everything I've done is to try and keep them alive. Sacrificing people purposely just to keep the rest of us alive? Is this what we've come to? Do we even deserve to live? There was a threat to its tone when it spoke. I could feel its eyes behind me. Is this really all in my mind? I didn't dare turn around and face the thing that was talking to me. I couldn't help but know that it was no longer just a voice inside my head. It never was. The old man was right. This creature is clearly intelligent. I don't know how it's traveling throughout the vault, or how it's able to talk to all of us seemingly at once. Is it some sort of pre-war creature that lived underground in Alaska long before we came here? Or is it a response to our country's sins? My sins.
After weeks of sleeping better than ever before, the dwellers once more exited the longhouse to greet the day. Today, upon walking out the door, they came upon everyone working hard packing sleds. Provisions, leather, fur, and tools were distributed. A few of their new friends then pulled a sled nearby, showing how it was already laden with camping supplies. A small bundle of wood, colossus manure, 2 crossbows carved on the side of the wooden handles was the number 710. The chief asked the vault dwellers if they wanted to join their people while they traveled their yearly route between Kotzebue and Point Hope. There was another group of natives they would sometimes meet there. They would show up in a few weeks if the weather was still fair. A sister tribe that would travel between here and Shishilik. The Inuit explained to David why they had never told the vault dwellers any story of the lands to the east, sharing how their ancestors went that way long, long ago, how they haven't tried to find them. To do so would involve hopping the ice islands of the north, avoiding the creatures of the deep water, and facing the different peoples of the wasteland. Finally, the odd plant life that was slowly spreading in this direction. The vault dwellers told them they would continue east, probably following the railways like before. They hoped to find a place to rest along the way, and somewhere to restore their supplies. It was around this time that multiple native people stood and began laying things at the vault dwellers' feet. There were leather pouches stuffed with smoked fish, dried glowing mushrooms, and water.
Off to the side, a younger Inuit woman sat talking with the shaman. When she was done, she stood and introduced herself as Amka Navakiak. She wanted to travel with the group to see the world to the east and was seeking the blessings of her elders before embarking. She wanted to see the other settlements that she had only seen in picture books and on maps in the old public libraries that hadn't frozen over. She pointed out her skills would be invaluable as they crossed harsher terrain. After a brief meeting, the dwellers decided to allow her to accompany them, promising the rest of the tribe that they would protect her as if she'd come out of the vault with them. In appreciation for the hospitality and the number of things they had taught the dwellers, they gifted one of their vault suits to the Inuit people, neatly wrapped with the 710 clearly visible. As the dwellers set out into the early morning fog, they waved back to their friends, wishing them the best. David yelled their goodbyes as the group faded into the distance. They pulled the sleds east all through that day and the next, making the long journey to a place Amka called the Gates of the Arctic. From there, they could follow the main railway lines to the pre-war city of Fairbanks, and then further southeast until they reached the Canadian border, passing through the Delta and Northway junctions. As they traveled through northern Canada, they would pass the cities of White Camel, Low Knife, and beyond that, a no man's land, somewhere that produced many stories, some of which had to be true. Plants that could be seen nowhere else, lizards that lived in the snow, and somehow, among all the craziness, more of Amka's people. All of this was shared by her as they set out to traverse through the freshly fallen snow. The history of the lands that they were traveling unfolded around them as they listened to the stories Amka told. The stories made the trek seem far shorter than it actually was, but weren't enough to fully distract them from the looming presence of the dense trees and dark forest around them. They stayed next to the forest's edge as they traveled. At night, they used some of their supplies to light a small fire and heat some of their rations, saying a quiet thank you to the Inuit people for their gifts before they enjoyed their meal. The eyes they had seen their first night out on the wastes watched them once more. Globes of light shining from the trees, watching the vault dwellers attempt to ignore their presence. One of the dwellers whispered to Amka, asking what the creature was. She didn't go into much detail, but what she did say was enough to make every vault dweller attempt to sleep with one eye open. There are things in the trees that hunt people. They like to whistle and sound like other animals. You'll know you're in their trap if the animal call starts to sound wrong. If that happens, you should run back to camp as fast as you can. If you don't, we'll probably never see you again. You shouldn't whistle for the same reason, and if you hear your name, never answer. These creatures, they're the people stealers. They're like us, except for their long legs and strong arms, strong enough to carry you up into one of those trees where you will never be seen again. We've lost many a young hunter who thought he could hunt at night without meeting the Sdongleasna. As Amka finished speaking, the bright eyes in the trees continued to stare down at the vault dwellers' group. Soon, one by one, they began to vanish. Then whistling began to come from the trees, overshadowing the rustling of the branches. The whistling shifted to the tune of an off-key loon, then back to a whistle, slightly more off-key than before. It tried many sounds to lure them out, the last attempt a discordant tune of an off-brand owl. No one acknowledged it, listening to Amka's advice to avoid entering the trees unless the need was dire, especially at night. Should we move further away? If we can hear them, they can probably see us, right? It doesn't matter where we go. They'll find us and whistle just outside the tent. At least here they probably won't leave the forest, especially if we leave a light out. This time of year, the sun doesn't go down for too long. I'm sure you've noticed that. You're lucky you decided to come out when you did. If you came out during the dark months, you wouldn't have stood a chance. Scarier things come out then, things that would eat you in one bite, or drag you down into their dens, never to see the sun again. During long nights, those creatures you see right now don't hide in the forest. There's worse things in the forest then that even they're afraid of. But during this time of year, they stay in the trees, rarely venturing from the forest, unless their prey stray too close. Debbie Noel's log, May 18th, 2296. The overseer was talking to someone in his office. I never saw anyone go in. He's been on his own all day. I think he might be losing it too. Glad to see even the high and mighty Brooks isn't immune to all the stress. When he came out of his office, his face was white as a sheet. I didn't bother to ask him if he was all right. Any fool could see he wasn't. He's not acting too erratic, so I guess he has a handle on whatever is bothering him so much. That man needs a woman in his life. All this running and bossing people around can't be good for his heart.
Vault Tech Mail. From Vault Tech Supervisory Channel. To Overseer Brooks. Subject: Experiment Interference. Previous correspondence requires elaboration. Recent data acquisition unsatisfactory. Requesting reason/purpose for experiment interference on multiple levels, including but not limited to status of oil levels, recent vault expansion, altering chemistry of fluids, tampering with vault tech equipment, secession of blood sample data. Overseer's log, May 19th, 2296. On top of everything else going on, Vault-Tec is demanding to know why I've stopped collecting blood samples. How dare they give me shit about drugging the water? If only they realized what I was dealing with on a daily basis. I'll respond to them in due time with the schematics of the cave system and what it will look like post-construction. I need to handle this monster before I even think about what I'm going to tell them. I'm not going to listen to that thing. I don't know if it can hear my thoughts like I can hear it. I hope not. I don't want it knowing what I'm planning to do. I know this creature is the reason for all the recent deaths. I don't know how it got to us in the first place, but it is definitely operating out of the lake now. I listened to what that girl had to say after she calmed down about the shadows she saw in the water under the purple light. We then went to our immigrant. It's hard to do this. I suppose I am a proud person, but I'm going to try to make things right. Starting with figuring out what this creature is. Gregor has to know something. The way he's acting, it's as if he's not surprised by the things that are going on. He seems resigned to the reality we find ourselves in. He's been stonewalling me at every turn. He gives no answers to any of the questions I pose him. Instead, he just mutters more in his mother tongue and gives me a look that seems to be a mix of disappointment and pity. I only saw the thing for a short moment in the reflection of the window while I spoke with it. It told me its name was the Yami Cook. It looked exactly like a person, just more disheveled, like it had been walking above ground or digging in the dirt for weeks without a shower. It still looked like a human being, though, but its nails were longer and sharper, and that wide, sharp grin will haunt my memories for as long as I live. This lines up with what Paul saw as he ran down the hallway. I can't figure out why it didn't turn the corner, why it didn't choose to finish him off like it did with his other victims. We have a few guns left. Most are in the possession of the upper echelons of security. We've decided not to distribute them even after figuring out the threat. Paranoia and the fact that this thing can look like a human would most likely lead to more Vault Dweller deaths, especially as they start to accuse the others of weirder and weirder shit. Should I tell them there's actually a creature, or should we go back to business as usual? I need to make it think that we're complying with its demands. If I decide to go this route, I will need to convince the people who already know about it. I don't know if I have it in me anymore to force people to shut up. I don't feel like being the bad guy anymore. Maybe I can convince them to lie. No one needs to know the supernatural nature of this thing. The rest can be explained away by simply saying it's some sort of mutated subterranean creature that we accidentally woke up. If I can convince people of that, then I might be able to convince them to let me use the dynamite reserves to blow the hole shut. We'll lose all of those valuable minerals, but hopefully we can lock it in there, or better yet, kill it, and hopefully stop the Ami Cook from plaguing everybody's mind. Requisition Order 2213. Subject: Dynamite. This is the Overseer writing to inform you that any and all explosive powder and charges are to be used in the attempted enclosure of a mutated creature which has been found to be living in the waters of the lake. We are going to hopefully eradicate the creature or cut off its access to our vault by blowing it to hell.
We hope you enjoyed our story. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to hear more about why war never changes, please subscribe to get regular updates on the adventures of the dwellers from Vault 710. If you're excited about the expanding Fallout universe, please feel free to tell your friends and spread the word. If you'd like to contribute, we invite you to join our Patreon. Subscribers will get access to episodes 1 week early. Our hope is that these stories help fill the void of being unable to play Fallout 5.